Good evening and welcome to Inspire to Achieve Global TV. Thank you for joining me this evening in the Executive Suite, and it's our regular Friday evening chat. So how are you? How have you been? How has your week gone for you? And who's joining us now? Right. Hi. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Please remember to share, like, and comment because this evening, the executive suite is not just about me here talking to you. It's about us having a conversation together. And this is your space. It's the place that you come to release the pressures of the week. So whatever's been going on for you in the week, you can come in here and have that space which is just about you, for you, the leader, the business owner, that the manager, the executive who really needs your own space, that space where you're understood, and the information that we discuss and share is all about helping you to reconnect with your vision, with your passion, with whatever it is that really distinguishes who you are as a person. And once you've reconnected with that, then you feel recharged and you're ready to go out and do whatever you need to do. And on a Friday night, we really like to wind down after the week, reflect, think about how our week has gone, what went well for us, what could have gone better, and then to really put yourself in a position where you can plan over the weekend and be ready to start the coming week refreshed, energized, with your ideas, with your actions, with your action points and things that you want to do. So the only way this works is if we have a conversation, we communicate, and we work together to get the best of what you want out of the executive suite. So I mentioned in the invitation that tonight we're going to be talking about collaboration. And it's a topic that's quite important because as you progress in your career, in your business, even if you've got side projects that you're doing, collaboration is often something that elevates you and it enables you to go further than you even envisaged when you started thinking and dreaming and planning for whatever that project or activity was. So it's an informal conversation, and do comment, ask questions, and let's really have some fun this evening. So the first thing I wanted to talk about with collaboration is it's something that is of mutual benefit to all of the parties that get involved. And for example, you may be really skilled, you may be a skilled speaker, for example, but you want to engage a different type of audience, an audience that you're not used to working with. So by working with a partner that has the audience that you want to approach, if you have a collaborative agreement together, you then get to speak to their audience, speak to their group of people, where you can be enriching them and adding value to them. And you may have information that the person who's got the group doesn't have. So with that, you're doing your skills share, and it's mutually beneficial to all parties. And that is the art of collaboration. That's the key behind collaboration. So, what's that? Yeah. So the other, so when you're thinking about, think about areas. And I mentioned in the intro, what areas have you collaborated in before? Have you been working with other people on projects because you had particular needs and goals, and they had either the skills or the resources or the audience, the clients that you would want in order to move forward? I work within, say, publishing, for example, and a collaborative form of working is when on the production side, because in order to produce, say, a magazine, there are so many different processes. Now, if one company had to fulfill all of the processes, and this is just on the production side of this magazine, that's a lot of departments and expenditure that they would need to have undertaken in order to produce a finished article. Whereas by having collaborative arrangements with people that can provide different services, so one may do the print, one may then do, say, lamination of the pages, One may then do the combining of the pages and binding the pages together. One may be trimming. So there's all sorts of areas that need to be covered. And by having the collaborative agreement where there's a process in place, so you do the print, then you pass it on to the next person that's maybe going to laminate and trim it. Then you pass it on to the next person that's going to bind it. And then there may be some kind of packaging or mailing out that's required. So that then gets passed on to them. So there's many different aspects to cover. And who's that that's joined us? That's one of my Inspire to Achieve colleagues. So hi, thanks for joining. So there's many different aspects around that. So collaboration isn't just about all of you doing the same thing at the same time. It may be to get people to fulfill different parts of a process that enables you to get to a finished product. So what that does, by mixing the people with the different skill sets, it gives you leverage because it gives you access to areas that you may not otherwise have access. So I mentioned earlier on that if you're somebody that speaks, and I'll mention that because it's something that's quite instrumental within the Yes You Can arena where we do speaking, we have speaking awards. So if you're somebody that speaks, but you do not directly have an audience that you can speak to, by collaborating with groups that have an audience, you can then share your material, share your information, your wisdom, your knowledge with their groups. So that means that they haven't had to spend the time acquiring that knowledge or learning the skills because you already have them. But you then do not have to go and build your own audience base because they have the audience for you. So that's where it's of mutual benefit, it's a win-win, and you can leverage then your expertise with their list. So, comment in the boxes if you've seen the questions before that ask, have you had collaborative unions, or are you interested in collaborating or wanting to know more about it? Have you had experiences? So, do comment so that we can have a conversation around it and see what's worked for you, what you'd like to change, what you may like to reconsider, and let's see how we can actually expand on this and work with each other. So another aspect with collaboration is about progress, because we all want progress. Now, if you know that you can make quicker progress by collaborating than if you were to go it alone and try and do every step of a job by yourself, which one would you choose? Now, some of us, we like to feel like martyrs and we do everything, then we could turn around and, say how hard we've worked, but we've done everything, we're tired, it's taken us forever to do it. But if you engage with somebody that can do elements of what you need done and saving yourself time, saving yourself stress and the energy that's required to do everything yourself, that's a key part of a good collaborative union. Now, Beata's saying collaboration is working in partnership and helping to grow others and to grow. So exactly. Thank you for that, Beata. And that is so true, because when you are working in partnership, but both of you understanding what you're going to contribute, because there can be an area where you've got some hazy lines and people aren't sure of what it is they're supposed to be contributing, then they encroach on each other's areas and you then get a bit of headache. But when the parties have a clearly defined line as to what they're bringing to the partnership and how they're going to work together, that's a beautiful way of having something that's mutually beneficial, that you're each leveraging your skills and your talents, and hopefully you then make quicker progress because you've already got a track record in the area that you're working on. So thank you for that, Beata. Exactly. So you can also help others to grow and succeed. So this is the benefit of that, because I think sometimes people feel, oh, I don't want to share my ideas. I don't want to share what I'm doing with others because someone may take their idea. Lovely. I like that one. Some people, they sometimes it comes down to an element of insecurity or not knowing the people that they're working with, why people feel that they don't want to share. They don't want to talk about what they're doing because somebody might take their idea. But as Beata said, collaboration is sharing knowledge. So if you're coming from that space of you've got something to share and the other person's got something to share, and when you marry those two bits of information together or the knowledge together, you create something even bigger that you can all benefit from. Why wouldn't you collaborate? So I can give you an example of an organization that I've worked with where we had a big project in mind and we were looking at raising some funds. Now we knew that had we made the application for these funds on our own, the chances are we wouldn't have received the money that we wanted. So what we decided to do was partner with another organization that had, there was mutual benefit for both of us. So we partnered with this other organization and we knew that, okay, they'd get half of the funds that we were applying for, but we had a choice. We could make the application on our own and come away with zero, or we can collaborate with them, join together, we put in the application, but we also insert a project that they wanted to work on that was connected to our project. And then we apply for the funds and we have to give them, I don't know, I think it's worked out about 45% of what we were getting. But 45% of something, to give that away is better than us having 100% of nothing. So this is where it paid, dividends for us to collaborate with another organization and put in an application that we more or less knew would be acceptable and get some funds so we can go off and do the project that we wanted to do. And it happened and we were happy. The partnership that we then formed, has benefited so much so that there's other bits that we've incorporated together and we now promote each other because it works for us and it's mutually beneficial for both organizations to work in partnership. And therefore, where we had an area that could have been sort of acrimonious to an extent, we've actually created harmony and made something bigger than what was already in existence. So that's one of the beauties and the benefits of being able to collaborate, or as Beata says, work in partnership. So exactly, Beata, when we're working together, everybody does achieve more. Thank you. So that's a simple example from my own personal experience where it works and, everybody benefits. So that covered all the areas of, sharing our skills, of something that was mutually beneficial, of having leverage. So, and we made quicker progress because had we not partnered with them and put in the application for the funds, we might still be looking to see how we can get the money another way. And that we've got trickles of money in, but it would have taken us longer to implement our projects and get them to the stage that they're at now. So it is key, but you have to know what it is you're going for. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to collaborate, but you've got no idea of what the outcome is that you want. You've got no idea of what your role is and what skills you're bringing into the mix, because if you're not clear, then that's when you can have situations whereby you feel that there's no line of demarcation of who's doing what, who's responsible for what. So when you get results or any benefits, you can't really measure them accurately because you just were not clear at the outset. And it's, I've had scenarios like that where we're looking at putting on events, for example. Unless you're very clear about who's responsible for what part of the event, who's responsible for inviting people, who's responsible for whatever's being delivered, who's responsible for, say, taking recommendations, who owns lists. There's so many different things involved in putting on an event. So if you're looking to do a collaborative arrangement on an event, you need to have all of these areas covered before you even start advertising. Because once the ball starts rolling and people start booking and things start taking shape, it's very hard then to pull back and allocate, who's going to benefit, who's responsible, who's taking ownership for certain parts of the event. Because how can I put it in a way that's quite straightforward? I think people get caught up in the moment, and when people are caught up in the moment, that people then start saying, "Oh, it's my idea, and it can become acrimonious. But if you're very clear on the outset of what it is you're looking to achieve, what you're putting out there, then you can all do your part of the jigsaw, and all of you benefit, and the event can be a great success. But if it's not clear, you can have some major hiccups and problems. So true. It is better to own 30 to 50% of income than nothing. And that is the power of collaboration. You're on fire tonight, Beata. Thank you. And the other thing is, it's about, one thing that I've also found is about ideas, because you only know what you know. And sometimes, you may have heard the saying, you don't know what you don't know. So if you sit down with your partners to discuss ideas and thinking about projects, then the amount of ideas that will come from you, that will come from them, that when you marry them together, it gives you far more than you thought you could have. Now, actually today, I've been in meetings most of today and speaking about a project that we're looking at, which I can't go into much detail about. But it was just sharing the ideas, and the ideas that we were sharing, we were able to come up with project idea that was more than when the meeting started, because we were going back and forth with information. And as you expand on it and are willing to share your knowledge, willing to sell your vision, so to speak, but the other person's also sharing their knowledge and their vision, and you put them together, what you can then get out of that is far more than you may have even envisaged in the beginning. And that's the beauty of working in partnership or in collaboration with others, because they may bring fresh ideas to the table. And sometimes when you're used to doing things a particular way, that's what you just continue to do, the same type of thing. So it's always refreshing to bring new ideas, new thinking into a process that will then enhance what you're doing, help it to grow, give it a new lease of life, even though it's maybe covering the same kind of area. But you just get a new lease of life and re-energizes yourself, because you yourself probably find that after a while you get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. But if you haven't had experience elsewhere, you haven't got access to certain information, are you going to change what you do? Are you going to change how you do things? So sometimes it's good to try, go into new avenues in order to deliver the same type of process or service, but just with new ideas and new methods, so that it's received with fresh ideas, with a fresh outlook. So I hope that's making some idea of sense for you. What else did I want to cover? Just keep an eye on the time as well. Okay, so the other thing is that economically, you can find that collaborating also works for you. Because if you are working on a project in which you have to fund, if you've got to find, and it's the reverse of the application side, if you've got to find all of the money, and then we'll talk about events again, to put on an event, that's a lot of commitment. Whereas if you've got a partner that's coming in with you, you're potentially sharing the costs, you're sharing the financial risk, so to speak. And you may put in 50% or whatever percentage you agree, and they put the same amount in. So you can then do more. Because if you've got £5,000 to play with, that's your limit of how much you can do. But if you then have a partner that comes in that's also got £5,000, straight away you can see you've doubled what you can do. And by having that broader budget, what you may even find is that you could do the same thing, but at a discounted rate because you've already got more to play with. So you can actually offer more. So that's, it's a key, it's something not to be overlooked. The financial benefit of partnering or collaborating, because it can make a huge difference as to just how much you can actually do and achieve. So what do we say? Yes, it's true. You can share knowledge, experience, as well as responsibility. So less stress on your shoulder. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we were saying earlier on in terms of, say, for example, putting on an event where you've all got defined roles and areas. So you're not trying to do everything yourself. And Beata, we've had conversations. So you would know that if you're trying to be all things to all men or women, it's tiring. By the time you get to a Friday evening like now, you've got nothing left in your tank because you've been here, there, and everywhere trying to sort everything out. Whereas if you know that, okay, I'm phoning venues to arrange venues, you're then putting the program together because that's where your skill set is. And if there's somebody else that's then looking at what's happening behind that or the marketing side to it, straight away you can see that by collaborating, you've released the pressure of the workload. Whereas if you want to hold everything for yourself because you don't want anybody to take the ideas, you don't want anybody to tell you what you're supposed to be doing, then you've got all of that pressure on yourself. So whether or not it's a time factor, whether or not it's a cost factor, whether or not it's a skills factor and ideas factor, you've just got that on your shoulders. So you're constantly thinking and worrying about, how are you doing? What do you have to do? What have I got to do next? I can't do this because I've got this to do. I've got that to do. I've got the other to do. But if you're then sharing out the responsibility, that's then a conversation. Okay, how have the bookings gone? Have you found a venue? Yes, tick. Okay, how's the course outline coming together? Have you done it? Fine. Do we need to discuss anything? Okay, let's set a time. Let's discuss it. Fine, but somebody's working on it, and it makes so much difference. It releases so much stress. Sorry, my throat's going a bit dry, so I just need to. So again, I think, Beata, what you mentioned about sharing that is a way of making quicker progress, just by collaborating and getting partners on board to help you with your projects. And it may even be a workload. So sometimes in companies, for example, you have interdepartmental teams that form. And where that works is that if the different departments have different skill sets, and you're marrying the skill sets from the different departments to then get a solution together. So you're not you are actually getting away from repetition, because sometimes when things are done remotely, then what you find is that each department is doing a number of tasks that the other departments are doing. So you're wasting resources by not collaborating and sharing information, so that you're utilizing one set of data, but you're using it in, say, 2-3 departments, rather than everybody creating the same thing over and over again. So that's also crucial. Right, so hi Richard, thank you for joining. So Richard's saying joint ventures, collaboration and investors. Exactly. So for people, for example, in the construction industry, what you often find is that if somebody wants to build a complex or work on a building, or whatever the project may be, one developer cannot fund the whole project. So they will bring in investor partners to fund a project. And again, that, well, what the splits are. So whether it's a 50-50 partnership, whether you've got a number, so up to 20 investors all working on this construction project. But they know at the start what their expected outcome is. So you already agree who's going to take what slice of the pie when the project's completed, or whether you're phasing it to say, well, okay, as we get to, some investors may come in for the initial stage of the project, and once it goes to a certain level, and then you can refinance the project, they then get their investment back with interest. So there's lots of different ways of collaborating and having joint ventures. Thank you for sharing that one, Richard, because again, years ago when I worked within the construction industry, this was common play. You could see that it was mutually beneficial to collaborate and have partnerships. And that's something that continues all of the time, because again, if we're talking, multi-million, billion-pound projects, who's going to want to put all of that money and take all of the risk? Because that's another thing that we need to consider. By collaborating, you're reducing your risk. So if the project goes well, fine, you benefit. But if the project doesn't go to plan and you've put everything you've got into this project, you've taken all of that risk on your shoulders. So this is another good reason to actually have partnerships in place, because you're not going to lose everything. So that's key. So let's look and see what else was it. Something else that again we see it all the time in terms of collaboration. It's things like sponsorship. So you think about events. So whether it's sporting events, whether it's music, again we come back to events, whether it's publishing. There's sponsorship is another form of collaborating. So when do you go to a sporting event and not see the names of the sponsors around an arena? It doesn't happen, because again, rather than the promoter or the company taking all of that risk, they're sharing it by having sponsors come in place and inject some finances, or it might be merchandise. But it also again ties in with our leverage, because that then gives the event leverage, because if you're connected to some of the big brands, you can then attract other brands, or you attract certain types of people because of their relationship or how they think about the brands that are involved. And Richard's saying, Richard is saying, so some developers can fund it all, but joint venture and angel investors so do it with more or other people's money, venture capitalists and hedge fund. Exactly, this is again where we're looking at how we keep that flow of money going. Because if the developers didn't use other people's money, then where would those other people's money go? Because for them, having the money just sitting there or having it somewhere that's going to bring them greater returns, it's a benefit for them. And then you as the developer, you're getting your project off the ground. So again, it's a win-win scenario. So this is where we were talking about leverage. We're talking about it being mutually beneficial. So Richard, what you missed before, the same part of collaboration is that normally it's mutually beneficial for the parties involved, which is why people or organizations collaborate. We're also talking about its skills, bringing skills in. So in your example here, the developers, their skill may be in seeing either a plot of land or seeing a building that can be converted to something else. So where we know a lot of conversion from commercial to residential, for example. So you as a developer, you've got an eye on what you feel the development could be. And if you have or haven't got the money, you then may need somebody that's got the funds, or an organization that's got the funds, to come in and facilitate your vision, facilitate your dream. So they bring the money in. Now, if you can assure them, if you can assure them that the project is viable and the return for them is, matches what their requirements are, then that's a win-win scenario. And as long as you can deliver the project on time, on budget, and you can then sell, whatever you need to sell, or let the development as you plan to, then, it's plain sailing. We know that there are often times where, there are setbacks on the construction project, that may be that, one investor or bank or whatever decides that they want to pull out, or they need their funds for other reasons. So you then have to go and look for another funder. It could be all kinds of things. Maybe the delays are on your part. So because you're not fulfilling your side of the agreement, your investors then decide that, well, okay, that, you know, they want to pull out. So there's all sorts of things. So around that, and what this touches on is that what contingencies you have in place. Because if you collaborate and it all goes well, that's brilliant. But if that collaboration is not working, what contingencies have you put in place to safeguard the parties? And this is something that, you know, if when you're all excited and you're thinking about your ideas and your dreams of what you want to do, you don't really think for the worst. But you do need to be mindful that sometimes things don't go as planned. So what's your contingency? You know, if you're working on a construction project, what's the contingency if one investor wants to go? Have you got a backup investor, or does that project then get stalled and sit there for months or years, of which I've seen sometimes things stall for years because they've run out of funds and they can't continue? Or what do you do? Do you sell it on? What happens? And it's the same thing with, say, an event. Hi, Twin. Thanks for joining. It's the same thing with an event. If you're collaborating with somebody to put on an event, but you've got different ideas and things that they're not moving forward in the way you want to, what contingency do you have in place? So these are things to consider, in that it's great to collaborate for all the reasons that we mentioned. So for it being mutually beneficial, for sharing and transferring skills, for gaining leverage, for making quicker progress, and even expanding your reach. But also it's something like you're taking out life insurance. What's your contingency? Yeah, and as Sheldon's saying, risk management is important. So it does have a good, so it does help to have a good, robust contract. So thank you for that one, Sheldon. And Bradley saying, yes, Bradley, thank you for that one. I'll put that up because Bradley's saying, let's get this shared and liked. So brilliant. Thank you for that. So in terms of, these are all the things that we really need to think about. Thank you, Adessa, for joining all the way from Canada. Well, you came on for a minute, so that's beautiful. So thank you, it's appreciated. So this, and again, we're speaking to Adassa's just joined us from Canada, and again, we've had conversations around collaboration, around leverage, and by utilizing your skills and other people's skills to actually develop and grow and put out a project or an idea that you may have. So this, I think in this day and age, it's important if we want to move quicker, because society is moving so quickly that if we're trying to do everything and keep everything within ourselves, we'll take forever to get anywhere. And by the time you start moving forward, whether it's a case of technologies change, whether it's a case of regulations change, it pays off now to really pool resources, pool ideas, and take action on things, because they say success follows success, and those who take action quickly, or is it success like speed? That's the one I was trying to get to. Those who take action quickly are the ones who get the results and then move forward and progress. And because things are, by the time you think of an idea and you put it out there, there's already somebody that's looking to replicate or duplicate that idea. So if you're not working in a sensible way that's going to enable you to make progress, enable you to move quicker, then what you'll find is that you're still sitting there thinking about the idea, and it's already gone 10 miles down the road because your idea has been worked on and moved along. Right. Richard's saying once built is built, period. Are we back talking about the construction side in terms of, because I'm assuming that your work is around construction and property, because the info you're coming out with reminds me of some of my clients' situation. Okay, the DASA saying the Lone Ranger syndrome is not aligned. Okay, where are we? Right, so let me read a few of these comments then. Okay, so the Lone Ranger syndrome is not aligned with growth, which is true, especially not now, because we don't need to do everything by ourselves. There's enough resources and people and partnerships out there in order for us to grow and share ideas. Okay, Richard's saying that they will not replicate on me. Wow, and I'm looking forward to seeing even more of what you're doing, Richard. And then, okay, Bradley. Okay, well, here, oh, he's sharing again. Thank you. Okay. Well, Bradley's on a roll now. He's on the share. So keep sharing, liking, and commenting. So again, let me know. All right. So you're saying you're all right. I thought you were a property investor, Richard, because I could hear that from the comments that you were saying. So I'd be interested to hear from you where you've collaborated before. So this is for everyone that's listening now. What collaborative unions have you formed and how have they worked for you? And why did you decide to collaborate? Because I think it's really important to look at why we collaborate, how we collaborate, and what we're looking for from it when we do. How did I do that, Bradley? So it's really, really looking at how we collaborate and how we work with others, because it's important to be able to bring out the best of both parties or all parties. So where Richard was saying about angel investors, for example, and I will come back to that property scenario, angel investors. I've seen how sometimes with property, for example, with development, where there's big projects going on. Now I know of one big one that's still going on in London at the moment, but they started working on this years ago. And what I saw that was done really cleverly is that we had the concept was drawn up, and you had all the concepts drawn up. You had a really good architect in place that did such fantastic drawings, and they had like the renders, and then created the brochure. Now, if I tell you that a lot of the penthouse suites for this development in the heart of London were sold before work even got started on the building. They were sold to overseas investors, but that's the way that they were already bringing money into the project before any work got started. So again, by collaborating with the right architects, that served a purpose. So they did their job. And then because you've already got sales on the project, can you see how much easier it is to attract investors? Because they know that there's a need for the project that's being delivered. So what is it you're doing that you may want to attract partners, whether they're investors, whether they're people to work with you, that you then know that by showing them, instant results already, it's attractive enough for them to say, yes, I want to invest, or it's easy for them to invest. It was the same, the example I gave you earlier on with the project that I was involved in where we needed funding, and we formed a partnership with another organization so that we could put in a joint application. And because of who they were and what they were doing and how it enhanced what we were working on, and we could collaborate together, we were successful with our application, although we shared 45% of the proceeds. But as I said, but us keeping 55% of something was far better than having 100% of nothing. So let me look at a few more. Yes, Sheldon, I did mention that before in terms of the good economics for collaboration, because you can pool resources together, where I gave the example of if I've got £5,000, you've got £5,000, putting that together, we can do a bigger and better project, or the same project, but better. Whereas if I'm just using my £5,000, when that's gone, that's gone. So that's, straight away, that shows you the benefit of pooling resources. Well, I suppose it depends on whether you've said here that you need a contract, however, trust is one of the key elements. I think the contract side comes in, not really depend, but especially if it's a commercial endeavor, it's always advisable to have a contract in place because it gives everybody assurance and it actually enhances the trust you have in each other. It doesn't take away from that trust. Although you have to trust people in the first instance in order to even want to work with them, to be honest with you, because I think if I didn't trust somebody, I wouldn't even approach them to work with them in the first place. So that trust comes in even before you get into, I think, that agreement stage. Good, lucky for you, Richard. That's great that you're getting introduced to several large angel investors and networks. So let's be really good to see how your projects come together with your investors and what sort of relationship you develop with them. So it's really good to hear that that's working for you. Right, let me see what other message we're going on. Oh, good luck with your call, Bradley. So actually, let me just see how we're doing for time. Oh, actually, I'm actually on time. So let me just give you a recap then of the benefits of collaborating. So what I was saying to you before, the benefits of collaborating is really that sharing of skills. It's about the leverage it gives you. It's by collaborating, you can make quicker progress to get your project or workload achieved. You can expand your reach. So if, for example, I gave the example of a speaker, if you're collaborating with somebody that's already got an audience, then by collaborating with them, you're delivering to their audience. And how it becomes mutually beneficial is that you've got skills and information that they may not have. So it's always a case of look at what value is each party bringing to the table. So you're sharing ideas, which means that you can create something even bigger than you first started off with. The economics side to it, where you've either got less of a financial risk, or by pooling your resources together, you have more to play with. You have more in the pot, so you can do bigger and better, or just get better. And then the prime example that I gave you is sponsorship. When do you see a sporting event where there isn't a sponsor? When do you see a music event that there isn't a sponsor? And even with events now, there's sponsors, you have sponsorship, whether it's trade stands, whether it is an actual sponsor that sponsored an event. In terms of publishing in magazines, for example, whether it's advertising or some form of sponsorship there. So these are just some of the areas around collaboration. And again, in 40 minutes, we can only touch on points. But I do hope that, that's been useful. I thank you for your input and sharing, your ideas, sharing your experiences. And let's, so keep thinking about with what you're doing, how can you let collaboration work for you? How can you form partnerships that are mutually beneficial and aid you in getting to where you want to get to, aids your projects, enhances the skill set you've already got, and how, what value are you then giving to the other parties that you're working with? Right, so Sheldon is saying that, it is the future business model for business to operate, grow, and develop. Thank you for that one. So it's a Friday evening. I'm going to sign off now, but thank you for taking the time to join me and for being in the executive suite this evening. And just continue to like, share it, and even comment, because I will be responding later. And just, just think about where you want to go to and what partners are out there for you. Who can help you deliver what you want to deliver? Who can help you grow and continue to grow, and therefore help others to grow? And just thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure to be with you again on this Friday evening. So I hope that you're going to have a nice, fun and relaxing weekend, and that you can get rejuvenated and recharged so that you start next week from a place of strength, and you can get some brilliant results. And when we connect again on Monday evening, let's see how your week has started. Oh, I look forward to seeing you in London then, Richard. So thank you.